Hello, and welcome to the podcast Psychology of You, a space where psychology meets you. This is a podcast about slowing down in a world that asks you to rush. A podcast about understanding your mind, honoring your emotions, and learning new things. I am your host, Louisa, and today we're going to talk about how to become a better version of you. Becoming a better version of yourself doesn't start with changing everything at once. It starts with awareness. See, most of us live on autopilot. Reacting, rushing, repeating the same patterns over and over. But real growth, it begins in the moment you pause. The moment you ask yourself, why do I do what I do? Not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. One of the most overlooked parts of becoming a better version of yourself is your belief system. Not the beliefs you say out loud, but the ones running quietly in the background. The ones running quietly in your head. Your belief system is made up of subconscious ideas you picked up over time. From childhood, from experiences, from things people said to you when you were too young to question them. And if I talk about beliefs, you can think one of the most things I've heard, like certain beliefs are like, for example, I am not good enough. Change is risky. Or like you can people are not to be trusted. Or this is just who I am. And that's like when people tell me this is just who I am, it will get into my allergy because what do you mean this is just who I am? No, this is how you choose to be. How can you be divined and just stay like that? How can you divine yourself like that? This is just no. This is how you choose to be. But obviously, because it's a certain belief, like from childhood you will get conditioned. Also, one of a really like well known example is like that you're only good enough if you give, you know and that certain belief, it stems for it's like it has to do with people pleasing. Like you always have to give or act a certain way or be good to people just to be good enough, just to be worth loving, you know mm, yeah. Anyway, the problem is that your life will never rise above what you believe is possible for you. It's like a certain frequency. It's like a magnet. If you live in debt, like let's say you're always like, oh, I don't have enough money, or oh, I will never find the one for me. I will never find love. Then that's what you will attract. It's a certain frequency. It's like a magnet. If you believe like life is abundant, if you live in abundance, like if you believe like I'm wealthy, I'm healthy, I'm grateful, I am worthy of love, I'm worthy of whatever, then you will attract it. And the thing is, people, and that's also the thing with this. Like you have to have patience. Rome was not built in one day, right? Let's say, let me give you an example. If you want to grow a plant, right? You have a certain seed. When you plant the seed, yeah, and you water it and you give it sun. After one day, and you will go back, you don't see growth. You will not say, "Oh, this plant is not good." Oh no, you will be patient and wait until your plant is until the flower or whatever is bloomed. So let's look at it like this: growth takes time. Speaking about growth, right? I used to think that to break a habit or to learn a new habit, takes 21 days, right? Because there was this surgeon, a plastic surgeon from the 1960s. His name was Maxwell Maltz, right? And he noticed or observed that his patients needed 21 days to get used to their new appearance, right? Or yeah, their new body, whatever. But now, throughout the years they notice it's like a myth, or at least it needs to be adjusted. If you want to learn a new habit, if you want to change your behavior, it takes approximately 66 days. 66. And that stems from, there was a research done from the University College of London, and they concluded it takes 66 days before new behavior becomes automatic. So even if you changed a habit or learned, new behavior, approximately it will take 66 days to include that new behavior so that it becomes automatic behavior. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. All right. So if we go back to becoming a better version of you, in my opinion, it all starts with the self-awareness theory, right? And the self-awareness theory is developed by Shelley Duvall and Robert Wigland in 1972. And actually, what it says that you cannot improve what you do not see. You have to be self-aware. You have to be mindful. And that's the first step. And being aware or being mindful of your behavior, your patterns, your automatic responses is just very important. Most people think they choose consciously, but the reality is that they live on autopilot. They react. It's like, people say, oh, I reacted before I thought. Yes, they react instead of choosing. So to make this practical, right? If we look at the self-awareness theory, right, and being aware of things, to make it practical, you need to observe yourself without judgment. Ask yourself, why do I react like this? And observe what kind of patterns you see coming back all the time. Because without awareness, you only build new habits on top of old problems. And I think what is also very important is that you don't judge. You just observe without judgment, without opinion, just observe. And you write it down and you analyze your patterns. That's step one. Step two has to do with cognitive behavioral therapy or theory or whatever you want to say. It stems from Aaron T. Beck. It was an American psychiatrist, and if we look at CBT, it's very big, but specifically the part of beliefs and core beliefs, then it stems from Aaron T. Beck. And what he said was very interesting. He said, like, what you believe determines what you do, and of course, what you do not do. And a lot of people, they want a better life, they say they want a better life, but they have these beliefs that make that impossible, right? And I already spoke about the beliefs like, I'm not disciplined, people like me don't succeed, change is dangerous, everything, things like that, but if we have to make this practical, right? Because we already know that we had to be aware of our patterns, our thoughts, etc. Then the CBT is a good step too. You have to catch your inner dialogue, right? Look at it without judgment, without, like I said before, be aware. And ask yourself. So the first step was being aware and observing, and now we're gonna ask ourselves, is this a fact, right? Or is this a belief? So, from observing, you ask yourself, you look at the inner dialogue. And then, when you ask yourself and you conclude that certain beliefs stems from certain childhood traumas or pain or whatever, and they're not rational, you can replace them with more rational beliefs. And like I said, keep in mind, Rome was not built in one day, so change takes time. But with these two steps, that's a good start. So then it's important to look at your emotional regulation, right? Because you don't grow if you're constantly distracted by your own emotions. A lot of people have self destructive behavior. And it's not laziness, it's just not being able to handle your emotions like stress, fear, insecurity, etc. And that's why, if we look at it practically speaking, it's very important to learn how to pause. right? So you pause first. And I spoke about it before, right? Like you don't want to react on autopilot. No. You really want to choose. So if you want to choose and if you want um to be the boss of your own emotions, you have to pause. You have to take the time to pause and react. Next to that, it's very important to speak your truth, to speak your heart, to speak your emotions, right? To be honest. Because a lot of people, yeah, I see a lot of people and they still say, yeah, they're afraid to be honest. Maybe because they don't want to hurt other people, maybe because, but look at it this way. If you're not able to be honest towards someone else, how will you ever be able to be honest towards yourself? Because with honesty comes discomfort. With honesty, by the way, comes uh, the chance to like lose people, right? I'm not saying you have to be rude. No, don't get me wrong. But being honest is just very important because you got to speak your truth. Because once you're able to speak your truth towards others and to be honest towards others, you're able to be honest towards yourself. Because you're not led by discomfort and, I don't know, like wanting to hide the truth. No. And also being honest, it will higher your it will higher your frequency. Anyway, so that's very important. And then the last thing I'm gonna talk about, right? If we look at becoming a better version of yourself, is taking responsibility. It's like having a certain attitude, right? And taking responsibility is in line with Stoicism, with Viktor Frankl, for example. And it says this: you don't always control what happens, but you do control your reaction. And what I think is very beautiful is that Stoicism teaches you that freedom begins where responsibility is accepted, right? So let's say you want to change yourself. You want to become a better version of yourself. You want to grow. Then you have to be responsible. You have to take responsibility. And it's in line with honesty, right? I spoke about honesty. If you take your own responsibility in things, then you will grow, because then you realize you have the power of your own life, because you are responsible for everything. See, I see a lot of people, right? They're blaming out things outside themselves. Oh, life treated me like this, so now I am like this, right? Oh, they reacted like this, and that's why no. What is your responsibility in this? Why do you always operate out of a victim mindset? You want to grow, don't you? Right? You do. So you cannot grow if you keep blaming things outside yourself, right? If you keep looking for excuses. And I know I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy. I know it's very challenging. But even when you take responsibility, you can do that without judgment, right? You can ask you if you make it practical, you will ask yourself, what is my responsibility in this situation? What part is mine? What did I do to create this? Right? Look at yourself. Keep pointing the fingers at yourself, because once you do that, you realize your autonomy, it will grow, because you train yourself that you can make you or break you. And once you realize you can make yourself, you can grow, you have the power in your hands, then your whole world changes. So react from values and not from excuses. Because power of your life starts with responsibility. And that's the journey, step by step, layer by layer. Becoming a better version of yourself isn't about perfection. It's about awareness, questioning your beliefs, shaping your identity, building habits, and taking responsibility. It's not a straight path. You will stumble and you will face setbacks. But that's exactly where the growth happens. Every time you pause, reflect, and choose your response, you're building resilience, wisdom, and character. Remember this: The best version of yourself isn't a destination, it's the person you become in the process. Every small action, every conscious choice, every time you rise after falling, these are the real victories. So start today. Take one step, even a tiny one, and make the change. Because the better version of yourself isn't waiting somewhere out there, it's waiting inside you, ready to be lived every single day. Thank you for listening, everyone. I have a lot more podcasts to come, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share my videos.